So from around age 10 to age 16, I had this secret hobby that I liked to practice in my room alone with the door locked and the music turned up pretty loud. And it was very important to me that no one ever know what I was doing in that room. So I took the proper precautions. I'd go into the bathroom and squirt a little lubriderm or conditioner into my hand or whatever's in there, and go back into my room and lock the door and turn off the music and everything was fine. Until one day around age 16 when the disaster happened, and I used a bottle of Suave, Just for Men shampoo and conditioner, as my lubricant of choice. And I don't know what was in that bottle, but apparently I had a pretty bad reaction to it. And suffice to say, I was literally and figuratively scarred for life. Not that bad, right? Like everything's fine. But any scarring is bad. So that was the day that I said, look, Pete, this hobby of ours is clearly not a fad. It's not going away anytime soon. I think it's time that we invest in the proper equipment. I heard about this thing called lube, KY jelly specifically, and I decided I was going to buy it. So the next day at school, I sat at my little desk, just agonizing all day, thinking about how I was going to go to the store and grab this lube and I'd go up to the cashier and they were going to know what my hobby was. But after school, I drove my Lollo station wagon to the parking lot, I parked in the parking lot, and I walked into the Lucky's or whatever it was, and I walked right down that aisle and I grabbed 2 bottles of KY jelly, 2 bottles, so I wouldn't have to do this again anytime soon. And I had the bottles in my hand, and I started making these loops around the store, right? Walking around, pretending to check out the canned tomatoes or whatever. But really, I'm scoping out the cashiers. I'm looking for someone who I can imagine actually doing this transaction with, someone who's way outside of my demographic, or I'm not going to see in my daily life, and maybe even can't see that well themselves. So I'm looking around, checking out the ice cream, but I'm not seeing any cashiers who fit the bill. There's no octogenarians wearing eye patches, nothing like that. I'm looping, and not only are there no cashiers, but all the lines to check out are really long. So I'm imagining myself having to get behind some guy in line, and he's going to be like, what's this skinny little bastard buying? Milk eggs? No, just 2 bottles of lube. So I'm sweating bullets, I keep looping. I've been around the entire store like 15 times now, and all of a sudden I think, whoa, how suspicious do I look? If anyone's on the security cameras, they're going to think I'm trying to steal these things. And then I realized, I am going to steal these things. So on my next loop around the store, I walk right out the front door. And the alarms go on. Sirens are blaring in my ears, lights are flashing in my eyes, and I just start running. And I get to my car, and right before I get to my car, I remember cameras, and I look back at the store, and sure enough, there's these external security cameras, and they're going to see my license plate, and cops are going to come to school, and I'm not going to graduate, and I freak out, so I don't get in my car, and I just start running down the streets, sprinting through the city streets, carrying these 2 bottles of lube, 2 miles to home, but I can make it, and all of a sudden I run to the store, they're going to call the cops. Cops are going to come around the corner in any second, so I think I got to get off these streets. So I duck over the first fence that I come to, and I'm running through backyards, and jumping fences, and running through backyards, and finally I get home, I throw the lube in the corner, I get in my bed, and I spend that entire night just imagining, just waiting for the doorbell to ring, the cops will show up, my mom to get the door in her nightgown, they explain what happened, she's crying, not my Peter, not my Peter, I'm crying to bring out the lube. That doesn't happen. I get up the next morning, I haven't slept a week, I'm racked with guilt, and I put on a button-up shirt, a little tie, and I say to myself, look, Pete, it's time we right some wrongs here. And I put the 2 bottles of lube in my pocket, and I have my brother drop me off at the store before school, he goes to school, I walk into the store, and I walk right up to the first cashier that I see. And I say, I need to talk to a manager. And the cashier says, sees my button-up shirt, and says, are you looking for a job? And I say, no, I just really need to talk to a manager. And so the cashier says, okay, I'm going to get the manager, and this man comes out, a middle-aged man, draining the temples a little bit, looking way too much like a father figure for my liking. And he says to me, what seems to be going on here, son? And I say, I took something from the store yesterday. And he says, you took something from the store yesterday? And I say, yeah. See, the thing is, I was too embarrassed embarrassed to buy it. And he says, okay, well, what was it? And I pull out 2 bottles of lube. And this man looks at the lube, and he looks at me, and I look at the lube, and I look at him, and all this time I'm just praying, please, God, don't let this man call the cops. I swear I'll never do my hobby again. Just don't let him call the cops. And he looks at me and he says, you've been a big man coming here today. I'm going to ring you up for these myself. And he does, and he rings me up, and I walk out of the store, carrying the first 2 bottles of lube I ever purchased. Waves of relief just washing over my head. For the first time in my life, I publicly admitted that privately I masturbate.
A brave man. A brave man. And that was just for the suave conditioner. But an honest man. You don't see a lot of honest masturbators, ladies and gentlemen. Masturbators tend to be more dishonest. But Peter, thank you. Thank you for that wonderful story.